The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
All right, Marla Parker. Let's put our hands together for Marla Parker. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Where are you based out of?
So I'm in Southern California.
What part? I'm in Hollywood.
So I'm a little bit south in Orange County, Irvine.
Okay. Yeah, that's still fairly close. And now that we're all locked in, you can drive there a lot faster than you could with traffic.
Absolutely. It is amazing how much traffic differences have come about because of the pandemic. So, yeah.
So what are you sharing with our viewers today? What's your topic?
So today I'm going to be talking about resting and releasing your way towards rejuvenation.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, does that spark a question for you, Crystal?
Well, it does. But first, I just want to say, hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing? I'm good.
All about formalities. She's all about the get to the goods.
It's all good.
It's all good. I want to say, hey. So I really appreciate, just all of the speakers. And I just wanted to ask you, have you spoken at the Best You before?
I have not. This is my first time, so I'm excited, but also a little bit nervous.
Okay. It's nothing to be nervous about. It's a really great time, a really great, awesome community. And I've been talking a little bit to some of the other speakers about giving tips to people that might want to speak at the booth. So I do want to just ask you the question, what inspired you to want to be a part of this today?
So I love the theme of the Best You, and I think that it's so incredibly important for the times that we're in. So I think when I see the Best You, I think of, you know what, even during this time, I still have to invest in myself. I still have to really think about how I'm showing up for people, how I'm engaging with people. And that's super important now more than ever because our communities rely upon us. I'm a teacher, so my students rely upon me. And so I really have to make sure, thank you, to all the teachers out there. It's like, I really have to make sure that I'm investing in myself, that I'm connecting with other people so that my cup can runneth over and that I'm not pouring out of an empty cup. And so that's what I think of when I think of the Best You. And also just, it's an opportunity to help people reimagine their lives and reimagine, what life will look like now that things have kind of gone all topsy-turvy. And I just love that. So that's what inspired me to do this. So.
Oh, excellent.
And so I read in your bio, Halo Loop. What is a Halo Loop?
So Halo Loop is a wellness company, and we provide life coaching, therapy, and spiritual counseling all on one platform, in addition to inspirational content. And so what we really want to do is to help people form and to connect with their halo. And so that halo is that glow around you that you emanate from within, but also it's what other people are attracted to as well. And so even though, we tout ourselves as focusing on spiritual wellness, you don't have to be spiritual necessarily, like you don't have to ascribe to a certain faith. Like for us, spirituality is much broader than that. It is about knowing that there's something greater than you on the outside, that we're all connected, and that your emotional and your mental wellness and paying attention to those things is what's going to really take you to that next level, but also help you to be resilient during these times. I know that there's some folks who are like, I can't even think about a future right now. Like I'm just treading water and all I can do is think about how am I going to survive in like the next hour, the next minute, the next day. And so having that strong mental and wellness base can help you to do that. And that's what we're here to help you do.
I love it. So you've got about 35 minutes to share. So at about 30 minutes, we're going to put a little ticker, and that's your 5-minute cue, just so that you're aware you have about 5 minutes. And then we're going to jump back on and give you some love and then send you all throughout the expo to play. So
thank you so much. I super appreciate that.
Sounds good. So you good, Crystal? You want to give her the main stage?
I'm good. Welcome to the Best You. Welcome.
Welcome. Main stage is yours.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome everyone to my talk. As you can see, I am at home. It's a very, kind of intimate space here. And you get to see me in my element, kind of in my messiness. And so what I want to talk to you all about today is resting and releasing yourself to rejuvenate towards rejuvenation. And so that might seem a little bit, counterintuitive, right? So how can I rest and be stagnant, and how can I release and let things go if I'm supposed to be rejuvenating, whereby rejuvenation might bring things to mind like being active and being dynamic and, getting your hands dirty and getting in the thick of things and building and constructing and thinking and being creative. And so what I want to do today is just to share my own story and kind of share the lessons that I've learned when it has come to understanding the importance, and not just the importance, but the connection between resting, rejuvenating, or resting, releasing, and rejuvenating. And so I love stories. I like stories because they're not just entertaining, but they are personal. And I love stories because they help us to connect to each other in ways that I think may not always be available when you're trying to be prescriptive and telling somebody what to do. And so for me, as a teacher, I always have to kind of understand, how is it that I'm coming across when I'm telling my students what to do, as opposed to maybe telling stories, which can offer like these really like rich learning moments, which can stay with us. And so today I'm going to take the story route. And this story is ever evolving. This story is ever changing because the characters, and it mainly me, I'm changing. And even the environments, the landscape in which this character is existing is changing as well. And so the main elements of the story are me. It's my phone, it's my computer, it's working from home, and it is the pandemic. So 5 different things here. And so, this story may resonate with many of you all. And it's not a fancy story. It's not a super poignant story, but it's one that has really allowed me to take away some pretty important lessons. And so, and my story begins just on a day working from home that I'm sure many of you all can appreciate. And from working from home, we are using these lovely digital tools that help us to connect with each other and help us to, theoretically increase our productivity, right? And so your digital tools have become increasingly important. Right? You don't just use your digital tools now for entertainment, whether it's going on Instagram or Facebook or what have you, but your digital tools are like your bread and butter now. So those digital tools better be in tip-top shape. Right. And for many of you, maybe Instagram and social media are your bread and butter. Maybe those are your tools. And so, the point being that it is very difficult it's challenging to, I would say, thrive and be productive in an environment now where digital connection is super important, right? And so one day, I was in my work from home mode. I was probably I would say, about to engage in maybe Zoom meeting number 4 or 5. So I was definitely feeling the Zoom fatigue, right? If I had to look at one more person or talk to one more person over Zoom, I was just going to, my head was going to just pop and explode. But, you plug through, right? Because you got to do what you got to do. Now, this was a pretty important meeting. This was a pretty important session. This wasn't just a regular Zoom meeting. This was a Zoom meeting that entailed me and that really required me to be engaged above and beyond what I might normally be engaged, how I might normally be engaged. And so I was prepped. I mean, I had done more prep before the night before, and I was ready to go. Well, I open up my Zoom link. I open up my Zoom platform, and you know what happens? It stopped. And it said, oh, we have to update. This was not what I wanted to hear. This was not what I wanted to see. So as you can imagine, panic set in. My heart started to race. I started to do the caveman approach to banging on my computer, clicking things. I didn't even know what I was clicking on. I was just hoping that if I clicked on something, something would work. Nothing worked. Every time I clicked on the open Zoom link, it came to Zoom needs to update. So you know what I had to do? I had to sit there and I had to wait for it to update. Now, luckily, it didn't take very long for it to update. I was able to recover and I was able to get on my meeting and, everything was fine. I apologized for being late. My heart rate eventually went down. I stopped sweating, which was good. And I was able to collect myself and engage and just focus on what I had to focus on. But that taught me a lot of lessons, and it made me think about how I treat my own self when it comes to being productive, when it comes to building, because I'm a builder. I like to have impact. I like to see things get done. I don't think that I'm productive. I don't think I'm doing anything unless something is getting done. And so when things don't work, when my tools don't work, the tools that I need to build, it's really frustrating. But what I realized several things, right? Zoom is a great tool. Zoom has become increasingly necessary for us to do our work. But Zoom can't function and our other applications can't function unless there are tweaks that are made, unless there's maintenance done, unless those updates are done. Now, here's the kicker. I have been getting notices about my Zoom needing to update before this, mini meltdown that I had. But you know what I did? I ignored it. I said, oh, it can wait. I can't do it right now. I don't have time. I have to focus on my meeting. I have to focus on grading or, running a business, right? I ignored all the warning signs saying that you need to update this, right? Now, updates are necessary in order for our tools, for our functionality to actually do what they're supposed to do, to get the best out of Zoom, to get the best out of whatever app that we're using, productivity app, then it needs to be shut down for maintenance. And what I learned and what I finally got, what my aha moments were when I was reflecting upon this experience, I said, you know what? The same thing happens with my phone. When my apps on my phone are not working well, or when I need to have a new updated operating system, I have to set my phone down. I can't use it. I have to plug my phone in. I have to wait until it updates. But while it's updating, it cannot be in use. The apps they're grayed out, right? Or your phone is grayed out when the operating system is being updated. So what I realized is that, you know what? In order for these tools, these machines, these products to do the best that they're supposed to do, they have to have rest. They have to have downtime. Now, these are not necessarily sentient beings, right? Or that operate with reason and such. However, the lessons still apply to me as a human being.
It is said that we live in a world our questions create. And it's true. Those that have succeeded in life, those that stand out, those that have made a difference, those that are inventing, those that are exploring, pushing the boundaries of reality are based on those that have asked themselves empowering questions. In my new book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose, I help you find your true purpose, find your legacy. For more information, go to www.thequestion.co. If you're interested in working with me, contributing, speaking at any of our many events, partnering, or licensing The Best You, for more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
I have to rest if I'm going to be my best. All of the cobwebs and the kinks and the baggage, bits of baggage, I have to release those things. I have to give myself space and time to release those things if I'm going to show up well and do what I'm supposed to do. If my colleagues, if my students, if my family, if my friends, if they're going to get the best out of me, right? Just like I want the best out of Zoom, just like I want the best out of my phone apps, I have to get those things fixed. And one of the main ways to do that is to give myself that rest and that relaxation time and to release what I may not be able to fix. I can't fix everything. You can't fix everything. Even if it may seem like it's our responsibility, there are certain things that we just have to let go of. Because the more that we pile on our plates, having this false sense of duty, then the plate's going to break. And so I realized that, you know what, if I can accept that a digital tool needs to be updated and a digital tool needs to have time to, upgrade itself. And the upgrades are super important too, because the upgrades means that your tool is better. If I accept that for a digital tool, why is it so hard for me to accept that necessity for myself? And that is where the other dimension to releasing comes in. What do I have to release in order for me to rejuvenate so I can show up better? I have to release this false sense of needing to take care of everything, because everything is not my business to take care of. Because when I do that, when I have a false sense that everything is on me, that's a lot of ego. Now, I like to say that I'm good at quite a few things, but I'm not good at everything. And when I take it upon myself to take care of everything, I might be going and delving into this slippery slope where my ego is going to get me in trouble because I think I can handle it all. And I know that I can't handle it all. So I had to get to a point where I realized that, you know what? There are so many people with talent and with gifts and who are craving for opportunity. How am I doing them a disservice if I think that I can handle everything? What opportunities am I snatching away from other people to shine if I think that I can do everything? So that's number one, right? Releasing this false notion that I have to take care of everything. Relatedly, I also had to release this notion that everything was a fire drill, that everything was on fire, and that it had to get done like right then and there. And I'm realizing this even during a pandemic where there's so much more frenetic activity and things pivot, so quickly. But what this pandemic has taught me, it's really taught me to truly filter and to really assess what is it that can wait and what is it that truly needs to get done now. Because when I do that assessment before I just dive into something, then I'm really being judicious and I'm really being a good steward of my energy. Because if I think that something needs to get done now that doesn't need to get done now, I'm taking away energy from something that really does need to get done now. And so the other thing that I want to, that I hope you all are gleaning from my talk here is that the other thing that we have to do is to release this notion that we don't have any boundaries. We do have boundaries. Even in a pandemic, we have boundaries. And in some instances, those boundaries need to be even stronger. So for me, once I had this aha moment about the need to rest, the need to rejuvenate, the need to kind of power down, and the need to just let myself be, I created a boundary so that I could do that. So for me, that came by way of taking Sundays off. Now, everybody, I think, has their own idea of what it means to take days off or to take time off. And for me, it was like full stop. I don't want to do email. I don't want to do Zoom. I don't want to do the phone on Sundays. No work involved on Sundays. Sundays is when I elevate my self-care. Sundays is when I really put more time towards those things that fill me up. So being creative. I've recently started doing a plant-based diet, and so I've been cooking like out the wazoo, and it's been fun. Or, I'm really into art, right? I'm thinking about even getting my next tattoo. And so I have been, putting more attention towards those things that give me joy, like looking at tattoo designs for myself and anticipating how beautiful it's going to look when it's done. Or spending extra time just exercising, right? And for me, also Sundays I'm going to stay in bed and not do much of anything. And so for me, and I know that this resonates with many of you, the idea of not doing anything for an entire day can seem really overwhelming, especially when you are so used to building and you're so used to making things happen. But I found that when I take that rest day, once I release this notion that I had no boundaries and I put up a boundary that Sunday is just my day, what it did is that, and I signaled that, I made that very clear to people around me. And so once people understood that and said, okay, this is Marla's boundary, then you know what? It changed their behavior and how they interacted with me. So I'm getting less and fewer work requests and things like that on Sundays because people know that, oh, this is Marla's rest day. And when I do get things on Sunday, it's like, okay, I know that you're resting, but for Monday, when it comes around, I'd like for you to take a look at this. And that's okay. But releasing this notion that I had no boundaries was so pivotal for me. And when I let myself do that, when I pushed through this fear that, when I pushed through the fear of things not getting done, when I pushed through the fear that things would blow up, what I found on the other side was peace, because this narrative that I kept telling myself that I had to be on top of things like all the time, once I pushed through, it gave me proof that I can change my narrative. So my narrative went from, well, what if things blow up? What if I miss something? What if something doesn't get done? To what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't blow up? What if things can be okay where they are and I can get to it on Monday? So I encourage you all, just as I have been doing, is to rewrite your rest, release, rejuvenation narrative. It's so easy and it's so normal for our brains to catastrophize things, right? But we have to retrain our brains to think about what can be, the possibilities of what can be. And when I say can be, I mean in a positive way. So again, when we think about releasing and resting, we might think, oh gosh, well, what if something falls off the rails while I'm resting and rejuvenating, or resting and releasing? What if it doesn't? What if I feel less than because I'm not always in this high productivity mode? Well, what if you have a sense of peace and calm because you've reinvested in yourself and you're honoring the fullness of your humanity? And your humanity has limits. You're human, and you're not meant to be going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even in a pandemic. And so even though in a pandemic, many of us have definitely built those resilience muscles for sure, and maybe we can carry a little bit more. And I think that's a great thing to discover, because it's trial by fire almost, right? But at the end of the day, you're never going to get to a point where it's okay to put 20 pounds in a 10-pound bag. And so you're going back to our lessons, right? Again, releasing this notion that you don't have boundaries, honoring yourself and honoring your need to rest, honoring your need to really engage in those things that give you joy. It doesn't even have to be for a particular reason, right? You can do it just because. Remembering that, you know what, if I understand that my phone and my computer needs to have downtime in order to resonate, I'm much more valuable than a computer. I'm much more valuable than an app. So if I can accept that with an electronic device, then I really need to accept that for myself so that I can navigate this human experience, not just with grace, but I can navigate it with a sense of wholeness and a sense of peace. And the other thing, too, to remember is that when we take it upon ourselves to do everything, we could very well, and even unintentionally, be taking away opportunities for growth from other people. If we think we have to do everything, if we don't rest, right, if we don't release this false notion that everything relies upon us, then we're not honoring and helping people to grow in their own gifts and talents. And so that's where, we have to learn the art of delegation as well. Because rejuvenation, it's not just about you, right? But more than ever in these times, I want to be about rejuvenating other people as well, because we're hurting. And as much devastation and destruction as the pandemic has brought, in a very weird way, it has also opened up the door for opportunity. And so for me, I'm always questioning myself, what is it that I can delegate so that I am helping other people to rejuvenate? What can I release that I think I have to do to other people? And another lesson that came to me when I was unpacking this is, I got it because I was so frustrated with having all these ideas and being super creative, but not seemingly have an outlet to actually implement these ideas. And so this Zoom breakdown, this app, breakdown, or I would say upgrade or update, what it allowed me to, in a very odd, kind of circuitous way, is to realize that not every idea that I have is something that I am responsible for implementing. So for those of you who are super creative and you have all these wonderful ideas and maybe you're frustrated because you don't have a way, or maybe the capacity to actually implement these ideas, I invite you to consider the possibility that perhaps your role was to have the idea, but it might be someone else's responsibility and role and their purpose to actually implement the idea. And that's something that's super precious because it really demands and requires that we stay connected. If all of us were, taking our ideas and implementing them and trying to make them happen all the time without including other people, then how are we growing? How are we contributing to the welfare and the livelihood and the wellness and the wholeness of other people if we kind of hoard, our ideas and our power? Power can be shared. Just because the light is shining on somebody else, it doesn't take the shine away from you. So I invite you to think about, especially if you, again, are this person that has all these ideas and all these thoughts, to release the notion that you also have to be the person to implement these ideas. Look for partnerships, right? Look for ways that your ideas can be implemented in indirect kind of ways. And also realize, I would say, release the idea that the notion that your idea has to be done like right now. Perhaps now is the time for you just to formulate the idea and to think about it and to flesh it out. And then maybe several months from now, the next phase is to actually water it and to nurture it. Because I've had this really, really interesting habit of thinking that just because I think of it now, it has to happen now. And that's not the case. You might be ready with an idea, but other people around you have to get ready too. Or the idea that you want to implement in a certain place, the people in those places have to be ready for it. The place has to be ready. And that's not necessarily your responsibility to get others ready and get places ready to receive what you have to offer. And so for me, I become more rejuvenated when I release this burden that everything has to happen now. It's like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. And what I do is that I just keep the ideas listed, okay, mentally or in my journal, and I just wait. I have faith that those ideas will come to pass. But when I put that negative energy towards, oh my gosh, it's not happening now, or it's not happening fast enough, then that has a certain heaviness to it. And it really, in my thought process, in my lens, in my worldview, that energy makes that whole beautiful idea become this kind of negative, because I'm focusing more on the frustration with it as opposed to what it could be, like the blessing that it could be. And I promise you, once I had that aha moment of releasing this notion that every single idea that I had to be done now, and it had to be done by me, more resources came. People came so that I could share my idea with them. And I let go of the fact that, you know what, I had to be the one to do this. I became more attached to the possibilities of this idea as opposed to my ego telling me that I had to be the one to do it.
To find out about my latest projects, get a free coaching lesson, or download my book, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
I had to get to a place where I said, look, as long as people are benefiting from the idea, as long as people can thrive because of an idea that I had, I'm okay with that. I never want to be so productive, right? Or think that I have to be the one to do everything, that it's my ego that gets in the way of progress, that gets in the way of being rejuvenated. And I even had to change my definition of what being rejuvenated was. Because rejuvenated absolutely has a physical dimension to it, right? When we take naps, when we eat, when we exercise, when we do deep breathing, when we do our yoga, there is a very physical response that comes where it's like you have more energy, right? Maybe you can think more clearly. And that definitely remained. But in addition to those physical dimensions, I wanted to really add to my definition of rejuvenation to include something spiritual and mental. And so for me, spiritual rejuvenation is about really releasing my love, and releasing my love through sharing ideas. Releasing my love so that it's not being hoarded. There's a lightness that has come from me when I do that. I'm not going to speak for other people or tell you what to do. Not completely. I'm a teacher, so I have a tendency to kind of, tell people stuff, but I'm trying not to do that so much here. And so, again, when I release this notion that I have to hoard things, when I release love and I try to make sure that comes through me, I get this rejuvenated sense that I have more capacity to love. When I release love, it opens up the vessel to receive more love. And it helps me to understand love in a greater way. Like, what does love actually mean? Never before have I had to really unpack what unconditional love means. Something about this pandemic, something about social upheaval, For me, again, it made me release these notions, previous notions I had about what love actually is. Being that we are connected virtually and there's less opportunity for us to see each other in person, like, how do you cultivate love that way? How do you cultivate when you can't, see and feel and touch people in person? And that's a higher order form of love that I have definitely had to practice. And so releasing this notion that love came in just certain ways led me on this path towards rejuvenating my love, actually, because I have a greater sense of what it means to love unconditionally. And that is so incredibly energizing. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how energizing it is. And so that's the kind of spiritual, dimension to rejuvenation. And so again, just to recap, again, I'm a teacher. And so I do recaps quite a bit to make sure that everybody is tracking. So again, if we can understand the concept, if I can understand the concept that a digital device or an app or tool needs to have downtime in order for it to upgrade, right, and to operate better than it has before, if I can accept it with that, then I need to accept it with myself, because I'm much more valuable than a digital tool, a digital device. That those moments of downtime have allowed me to really understand boundaries. It has allowed me to understand that, everything is not a fire drill. Everything is not an emergency. There are things that can stay put for a day or two without me feeling like I have to have my hands on it now. The downtime and releasing this notion that I have to do everything on my own, or everything is in my hands, or I have to lead everything, it has allowed me to understand that my ego can be my worst enemy. And if I allow my ego to lead, I'm taking away opportunity from other people, because I can release and delegate things to others to help things to continue to move along. The rest and the downtime had helped me to reshape and reformulate a new narrative for myself about what rest actually is, what it means, and what rejuvenation is and what it means. And I've gone from the what if things fall apart, what if things blow up, to what if they don't? And actually seeing that not all the time they do blow up and do fall apart. Doing the rest and releasing has also enabled me to understand more about what it means to love somebody unconditionally and to love deeper. Releasing these notions that love is confined, and it really isn't. The downtime has allowed me to understand that, not every creative idea, not every idea that I have is mine to necessarily implement. I can share that freely with other people. And this downtime, when I take downtime, it's also helped me to realize that, this universal law of connectivity, everyone being connected, it relies upon me getting out of my ego. It also means that I have to realize, and think about time differently. Just because an idea is conceptualized now doesn't mean that it has to be implemented like right now. There's time, because I can have an idea that not every place and not every person is ready for. And so places and people have to be in a mode to actually receive the idea that is being presented. So just as I have downtime, they have to have, time as well to get ready, maybe mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, to receive what it is that I would like to have done. the downtime, the resting time and the releasing time has also caused me to really reevaluate like what's important. Is my idea important, or is the impact of that idea important? And if I'm more focused on the impact, then I can let go of the fact that I have to be the one to do it. I can freely support someone else in the implementation and building and evolution of the idea. The goal is to have positive impact on people, not for me to be the one to say, I did this. I made this happen. And so in this story, like I do hope that you have been inspired to take your own journey of resting and releasing so that you can be rejuvenated. Now, I'm still working through this, to be honest with you. As I said earlier, the story is still being written. I have had Sundays where I get a little anxious, but I've had to push through those moments of anxiety and just to breathe and say, Marla, remember, this is your time. So it's not as, I don't want you to have the expectation or to think that once I made this decision to have boundaries and to have space to release and to, rest, that everything was good to go. Like it was not. And I'm still learning how to do certain things. And maybe even taking a whole Sunday off is not possible for you. And I understand that because so many of us have multiple responsibilities. So what I encourage you to do is to take micro moments. So even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour, to say, I'm going to take this for myself. I'm just going to breathe deeply. Deep breathing has changed my life, I tell you. I didn't realize how shallow breathing was impacting my anxiety, but deep breathing has done so much for my mental and emotional state. It's amazing. And so even if you just have or want to do micro moments of resting and releasing, that's great. And you can build yourself up to a day if you would like. And so in those micro moments, again, take that time to definitely breathe for sure, but also construct and ruminate on your positive rest and relaxation and rejuvenation narrative. A lot of the challenges that people may have with having these boundaries of space and time, definitely their time issues, definitely their space issues, right? If you're in a home where there are multiple people are on top of each other, then yeah, I totally understand and can appreciate that it's harder, right, to get your you time. But another significant part of people not being able to put up boundaries are psychosocial. And so changing your rest and rejuvenation narrative is going to help you to push, or it's helped me to push through these barriers that I had. The main barrier being, again, that if I don't do something now, then it's not going to get done. So in your micro moments, okay, or even in your big moment, resting moment, go over your narrative. If you find yourself just automatically thinking that, you know what, I can't do this because something's going to break, ask yourself, why do you think that? Is it because you're not on top of it and you feel that you're the only person who can do it? And another thing to think about is just my own self, and, is my reality, what has proven that things are going to fall apart?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm so calm listening to you. And I took a little meditation break there for the last 35 minutes while you were sharing. And I got to tell you, it works. I'm not floating now. I actually had to put a chair underneath me, so I'm not hovering right now.
Oh, wow. Oh, good.
Well, thank you so much for a wonderful share. If people want to learn more about you or continue on where you were headed, where could they go?
Yeah. So they can go on my LinkedIn page. All you have to do is look up Marla A. Parker, PhD on LinkedIn, and you'll find me there because I do have some messages about self-care. You can also just go to Able Loop, because we talk about these things. We have our new e-newsletter just got released. I'm going to post it like right now. And the message is okay with not being okay.
And you mentioned, you said you were nervous, but I couldn't see any bit of nerves. You were so calm. I'm like, that is not nervous. So
Right.
Crystal, she lied to us. What you think?
Well, I think one of the main things that I got is something that I've told people and told myself, but I've forgotten about it, which was your role might just be to come up with the idea and not necessarily to implement it. That was huge.
You know what else somebody told me is you can start it, but you don't have to finish it. That blew my mind too. I thought I had to finish everything because I have these major ideas. I'm like, I'll never finish that. They're like, start it. Someone else will finish.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And it might be someone else's purpose to finish it too.
Who are we to judge? Who do we judge?
Tony, you're right. She did the whole thing was just so cool, calm, and collected. I'm like, really?
Yes. So if you guys want to be as calm and collected as Marla was, you definitely need to reach out to her. We're going to send Crystal over to the main stage. She's going on live TV in a minute, about 30 minutes, I think. And then we're going to jump over to another stage here at the Best You Expo. So much going on. Make sure you guys keep watching this. The Best You Expo, Miami. Virtually 2021, baby. Miami.
Miami. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll see you on the other stages. Make sure you check them all out. There's lots of them. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.